2% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't lived the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move, whatever.
So let's hop into today's video, man. So I'm gonna be talking about a very serious, deadly Crip strikes again, man. Now this dude may be familiar to some of you guys. He goes by the name of John C. Blaylock. Now he is an East Coast Crip who's already doing several life without parole, 75 years to life. He strikes again and he attempted to kill another officer. So I believe this was on March 9th. Let's get right into this story right here, man. So apparently on March 9th at California State Prison Sacramento, also known as New Folsom. Now, according to prison officials, around 10:15, Blaylock allegedly attacked an officer in a cell block. They say that the officer suffered multiple puncture wounds from an improvised weapon. They say staff quickly intervened and stopped the attack, and the officer survived and was transported to a hospital. The case, of course, was referred to a Sacramento County District Attorney for possible new charges. Now, of course, they'll probably charge him with that. They're gonna charge him with that. But for what? Like I said, he already has several life without parole, or at least 1 or 2 life without parole sentences. He came there with a 75 to life. So this dude has just been, you know, he's been on one ever since he got locked up. And actually, even before, like I said, he has a long, extensive, violent history, right? And so let's get into some of that before I talk about him killing the prison guard. I believe it was in 2005. Now, before John Christopher Blaylock became well known to the masses, he'd already spent a whole lot of time in prison. From 1990 to 1992, he served a prison term for robbery. From 93 to 2002, he had returned to prison again and served another long sentence connected to a robbery with a firearm. Now, it was during this period that it was documented where he had a lot of serious, write-ups, disciplinary history inside the prison. Now, a lot of those write-ups was for violence against staff and other convicts, possession and use of weapons. At one point, he was caught with a weapon while he was locked up, and they transferred him to the California State Prison Corcoran, where he served 10 months in the SHU. Now, when he was eventually released from prison in 2002, Blaylock, he didn't parole from the general population. He actually received what convicts call a one-time SHU parole. Now, at that time when he paroled, he had 376 points. Now the California prison system is based on a point system in terms of them deeming what type of housing that you need. Now, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but let's just say from 0 to 18 is level 1. Like from 19 to 27, maybe level 2. From 28 to like maybe 51, maybe level 3. And then from 52 on up is a level 4, right? And you accumulate these points depending on, you getting in trouble, you getting these write-ups, and then your points goes down if you happen to stay out of the way for a year, your work and so on and so forth. They're going to take off 8 points. If you're not working and you stay out of trouble, they're going to take off 4 points, right? So if you happen to accumulate a lot of points, it's definitely going to be hard for you to get down to a lower level. Like I said, once again, it takes 52 points to be on a level 4. This dude had 372 points. So it shows by all the points that he accumulated, he didn't care at all about getting in trouble, creating havoc, causing chaos, or doing whatever it was he was up in there doing. Now, when he finally got out, he didn't stay out that long, a few months, I believe, according to my research. And then he came back for the attempted murder of a police officer. So I believe he came back with a 75 to life sentence. I believe at that time it was somewhere around 2004. He was about 34, 35 years old. And so in his mind, with 75 years to life, it's over. Now, we already see on his last sentence, when he had several years, He didn't care about getting in trouble. He was acting a fool. He was given an indeterminate shoe, and that is, for those who don't know, you're getting out of that shoe indefinitely, So when you get an indefinite shoe, sometimes you can stay in the hole pretty much forever until you parole. And then when you parole, if you stay out of trouble 4 or 5 years later and you come back on an entirely different number due to your prison history, which is known as a central file, they are going to put you in the hole again, regardless of the fact that this is an entirely different case. Now, according to the reports that I could find on his prison history, July the 31st, 2004, he stabbed another convict. At that point, he was briefly placed in administrative segregation. Then September 22nd, 2004, he was returned to general population. Now let's move forward to January 10th, 2005, when he had the incident with Officer Gonzalez and later on was convicted and given life without parole for killing Officer Gonzalez. Now, according to investigators, Blaylock called Officer Gonzalez toward him, eventually pulled out a hidden weapon, and he stabbed him multiple times in the chest and the abdomen, and the officer later died at a hospital. Now, around that time, Chino State Prison had ordered close to 1,000 anti-stab jackets and protection vests, but I believe they only got somewhere around like 392. So for whatever reason, they didn't issue these out to the correctional officers, right? So eventually, when Officer Gonzalez was stabbed, or what he was known as in the prison by most people, Gonzo, he didn't have any protection and he ultimately lost his life, right? Now, I think this is very important, right? And we're not going to gloss past this, right? There are well-known stories of Gonzo being a very, very vindictive, rude, disrespectful cop, right? It was even said that, or let me say correctional officer, right? It was even said that he actually brought in a knife in order to have Blaylock killed. They said that him and Blaylock had a lot of confrontations, and he was always basically disrespecting Blaylock, harassing him at every chance he got, because Blaylock, they said, one of the things that really irritated Gonzo about Blaylock is that he was already in prison for attempting to kill a police officer. And maybe for this reason and many others, Officer Gonzalez, or Gonzo, continue to harass this guy right now. I interviewed Chances, right? And Chances, if I'm not mistaken, I believed he was down there around the time this happened or came shortly thereafter. There's also another channel with a dude who appears to be white, but he may be a Southerner. And he speaks on this issue as well, talking about it was relatively well known. Gonzo was just a jerk, for lack of a better word, right? And so the story goes actually that Gonzo brought in a knife to give to another faction, to give to another race, in attempt to have them delete and take Blaylock out, right? But now this other race, this other faction, they denied, as the story goes, and they approached Blaylock. They let him know about the plan, and they even gave Blaylock the knife that Gonzo had gave them, right? So now at Chino, you're pretty much in your cell. They have extremely small cells, and you're in there pretty much all day, except for when they release you to go to chow. I happened to go to Chino on a layover going to another prison, and I stayed just for 24 hours, right? And it was extremely small cells. It was a very dirty, nasty looking prison, right? And so you were being locked in these cells, and then the guards would have to pull this lever and eventually release everybody out, or let people out when they're going to medical and things of that nature. It was said that Gonzo would often let people out of their cell and then let out other rivals or factions and have those individuals jumped, beat up, and things of that nature. So he definitely, I'm speaking of Gonzo here, he definitely had a reputation of being a dirty cop. There were also stories put out there that a few days before Gonzo was stabbed, he had opened the door to a homeboy of Blaylock's who was from his hood or an alliance of his, pretty much allowing him or even setting him up to be jumped and beat up by other convicts, right? So according to many well-spread stories by convicts who happened to be there at the time, Gonzo was doing a lot of things to basically have other convicts upset with him. And once again, you'll have many convicts say that he unknowingly facilitated his own death by bringing in that knife, giving that knife to other convicts, hoping to try to have them kill Blaylock. Now, after Gonzalez lost his life somewhere between the years of 2007 and 2023, there was a long legal battle in attempts. Of course, the prosecution is trying to get Blaylock the death penalty now. And so, when something like that is going on, it's just a whole lot that goes on, before the trial can get underway, because so much is at stake. The case was delayed for lots of years. It was a lot of different issues going on involving medical records. I believe at that point in time, Blaylock was trying to say that he was mentally incompetent. And so they had a lot of mental competency evaluations and things of that nature, right? Now, let's keep in mind, when he was accused of killing Gonzalez, that was 2005. It seems like he got out of the hole at some point in time, because in 2014, while he was already in prison, he received another life sentence for assault with a deadly weapon committed while he was incarcerated on another convict. So finally, in 2023, he was finally convicted of the murder of Officer Gonzalez. And in August of 2023, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the murder of a peace officer. Now, some people may be wondering, well, dang, okay, if this dude already had 75 years to life, and then he got another life without sentence for stabbing somebody, now here is the conviction for the officer that he stabbed and killed. I believe it was in 2005. Why didn't they give this dude the death penalty? Well, at that time, there already became a moratorium or a shutdown on the death penalty, which essentially means that even if you had a death sentence, California stopped, or they ceased to stop and execute dudes who was on death row. So pretty much, I don't know if that played a part into why they didn't give him a death penalty sentence or whatever, but for whatever reason, they chose just to give him life without the possibility of parole. So now, fast forward to March 9th, a few days ago, despite having that serious violent prison history, being on walk-along status, single man status, despite, killing an officer back in 2005 and stabbing somebody else in 2014, it seems like once again he was on the main line in the building. In general population, he gets into an altercation with this guard and he attempts to stab and kill this dude again. So obviously Blaylock is not playing with law enforcement or anybody else up in there, it seems like, that gets on this bad side. He came in with 75 years to life, and he probably seen that it was over, and he just gonna do what he gonna do, man. If you play with him or if he get upset, he is gonna result to picking up that thing and going crazy, man, trying to put you 6 feet in the ground. Anyway, man, that's my story on an extremely dangerous, extremely deadly, extremely serious Crip who has no problems with trying to lay something down, man. Y'all know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.